force winds, so that's winds approaching 74 miles an hour, sustained, as well as a real potential for hurricane force winds. Any small shift in the track of the storm, which is very possible, could increase that chance of hurricane force winds more than it currently is. We expect those winds to be here Wednesday afternoon and evening through Thursday during the day as well. Again, that timeline may change. That's kind of a rough timeline, but based on the current forecast, we're expecting late Wednesday through Thursday. What does that mean here in our community here in Flagler County? We fully expect to see trees knocked down and damaged and collapsed. We do expect to see widespread power outages, as well as some damage to buildings, particularly loose items around buildings or fixtures on buildings that may get blown off due to the winds. Rain. Today through Friday, so today and while Milton is passing by us, we're expecting another 10 to 15 inches. That's probably one of our biggest concerns. 10 to 15 inches on top of the about 5.5 we've already had for the last 2 or 3 days. So that is a significant amount of rainfall. What this really means here in Flagler County is we do expect to see localized flooding in some areas, as well as the wet soil is going to make it easier for trees to topple over. Storm surge for our coastal communities as well as our Crescent Lake area. We are predicted to see 3 to 5 feet of storm surge on the Atlantic Ocean coast, as well as the intracoastal waterway. Expect that to be very similar, maybe not exactly the same, to what we saw in Ian and Nicole, as well as Irma. In the Crescent Lake area, we also expect to see 2 to 4 feet of surge, and that's very similar to what we saw after Ian and Nicole. And even after Ian, that's very similar, that some of that surge may actually occur after the storm has passed us, as the St. Johns River fills up from the counties south of us and flows north and backs up through the Dunn's Creek into Crescent Lake and Dead Lake and the Haw Creek. So while the eastern part of the county may see storm surge subside after Thursday, heading into the weekend, we may see flooding increase on the western side of the county. Because of these risks that I've outlined, we are going to be, as of 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, implementing an evacuation order that will be signed later this afternoon for certain parts of our community. Those specific areas are all residents living in mobile homes and recreational vehicles county-wide. Also residents living in flood-prone areas, particularly around Crescent Lake and Dead Lake. On the Barrier Island, our coastal communities, the entire island from the St. Johns County line to the Volusia County line. So that's marine land down through Flagler Beach and everything in between. Here on the mainland side of the county, in the area south of State Road 100 or Moody Boulevard, neighborhoods off of John Anderson Parkway, neighborhoods off of Palm Drive, the Bulow RV Park and Homes off of Old Kings Road, as well as properties along Lexington Court and Ashley Way, and those backing up to the Bulow Creek in the Polo Club West Sweet Bottom Plantation neighborhood. Between State Road 100 and Palm Coast Parkway, the following neighborhoods will be included in this evacuation order. Neighborhoods off of Lambert Avenue, in Marina del Palma, just those properties immediately upon the Intracoastal Waterway in the Yacht Basin, as well as in Palm Coast Plantation, homes off of South and North Riverwalk Drive. And then north of Palm Coast Parkway up to the St. Johns County line, just those homes that are within the Princess Place Preserve. Again, to reference those items, you can go to flaglercounty.gov/emergency, and that same list is posted on there for your information. These evacuation orders will take effect at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. At the same time that we issue those evacuation orders, at 8 o'clock Wednesday morning, we will be opening up a shelter at Rimfire Elementary School. That will be both a special needs shelter and a general population shelter. That shelter is also what we call a pet-friendly shelter. So those residents with standard domestic pets are welcome to bring those pets with them. And we'll actually, my next slide, we're actually going to talk about the items to bring with you to a shelter. And that'll also be available on flaglercounty.gov/emergency. Some of the key items when evacuating to the shelter that you have, and you may have more items to bring with you, depending on your situation, to the shelter, is to make sure you bring identification, house and car keys, medical records, any medical equipment for those in the special needs shelter, water for several days if you have special dietary needs, prescription medications, a flashlight and batteries, any special dietary food items, clothing, bedding, but not to go on top of cots or on the floor, Please do not bring air mattresses. We do not have the ability to power everyone to fill up air mattresses. Reading material, mobile phones and backup batteries, and contact information for family and friends. Additionally, for those whose evacuation plans take them to go stay with friends or family, or to go stay in a hotel or motel, we ask that you do not wait until tomorrow morning when we're opening the shelters, that you implement your evacuation plans later today and this evening. So again, if your evacuation plans are to take you to friends and family outside of the evacuation area or going to a hotel or motel, please do so today so that we can keep the roads clear for those evacuating tomorrow morning and heading to the shelters. Additional things that you should be doing in the meantime and for the rest of the day today is stocking up your disaster supply kit. If you're not sure what should be in a kit, if you go to flaglercounty.gov/emergency, we can download our emergency preparedness guide, and there's a disaster supply kit in there. Additionally, to make sure that you are getting emergency notifications from us, such as when the evacuation order starts, so at 8 o'clock in the morning you'll get this message, as well as we'll send an alert out later today giving people a heads up again, that if you sign up for our Alert Flagler notification system, it does not cost anything to sign up for that, but we need your phone numbers and your addresses to make sure that we can notify you. Because most folks don't have home phones anymore, we don't have access to cell phone records, so we need you all to give us your contact information through our Alert Flagler system so we can get you timely messages. Same website as mentioned before, flaglercounty.gov/emergency, and you'll see a link for Alert Flagler notification systems. Additionally, the last thing we want you to consider doing and finishing up today is to make sure you finish preparing your home. If you use sandbags, to make sure you put sandbags out. If you're in an area prone to flooding, if you're going to use shutters on your home, make sure you install shutters or similar items on your homes. Finish that today as well. And then any other protective measures you take to prepare your home, such as removing loose objects, bringing in lawn furniture and items like that, please make sure you complete doing so today. The county will cease its sandbag operations at Bayfront Park as well as Hidden Trails Community Center at sunset today. So those still looking for sandbags and assistance with that, please make sure you get out there today. And we do have support from the Sheriff's Office inmate teams out there until about 4 o'clock today. So please, if you're going to need that kind of support, please make sure you get out there by then. We also have a growing list of municipal and county government closures, and that list can be found on the same website again, flaglercounty.gov/emergency. But in particular to county government will be generally closed starting tomorrow through Friday at this point in time. I'll now turn it over to Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley.
Good afternoon. I'm Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley. To our community, as you know, this is not our first rodeo with a hurricane, unfortunately. My message is let's work together. Let's heed the warnings for your safety and prepare. Now is the time to prepare. Your sheriff's office is well trained. In fact, they just got back on Monday from supporting the Taylor County in the north, in the Big Bend area of Florida. And so unfortunately for them, they've had a lot of experience with Hurricane Helene recently. And they're back. Our high water rescue vehicles are ready to be deployed along with our crew with chainsaws for trees that may go down because the ground is just so wet. We're starting wet. We're going to add 10 to 15 more inches of water. Some roads are already flooded, and it's only going to get worse. So once the evacuation order goes in, if you can start to avoid driving and sightseeing and those kind of things, we would appreciate it. Leave it to those that need to evacuate and to first responders. There will be a curfew that goes into effect Wednesday night starting at 7 p.m. till 7:30 a.m. Thursday morning. And this will continue daily until rescinded. We're hoping it will only be one night, but depending on the destruction and damage and the conditions of the roads, it may continue. To those that may be listening that think they can take this opportunity to prey on our community during the disaster, you are totally wrong. Deputy sheriffs will be out there along with our partners at the Flagler Beach and Bunnell Police Department. And if you want to ride out this storm in a very secure building, just commit a crime. I have plenty of room at the Green Roof Inn for those that may not know what that is, it's the county jail, and that's where you will go. And when you violate the curfew during an emergency, expect some enhanced penalties to be prosecuted. So criminals stay away, and we'll be fine. And everyone work together, and we'll get through this storm together. Just know that your Flagler County Sheriff's Office, men and women, your other first responders, the fire departments are ready. We're prepared. We have the equipment. But also keep in mind that if we get winds sustained at 45 miles an hour, they are not going to be able to respond to rescue you, and you're going to have to ride it out needing help. We don't want anybody to be in that position. So heed the warnings, evacuate if you're in these areas, knowing that there will be likely a delayed response if you choose not to evacuate and then at the last minute need us. We're not going to risk the safety of first responders because you failed to prepare or refused to prepare and evacuate. And we'll come get you as soon as the weather allows us to, or we'll get your remains, whatever it may be. So it's a serious storm. It's a big storm. We may be fortunate in Flagler County, but as Jonathan said, it could deviate at any moment and make it worse for us. So now's the time to prepare. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next speaker is Flagler County Commission Chair Andy Dance.
Thank you. Real brief, just wanted to take an opportunity to thank our Flagler County staff, specifically Public Works and Emergency Operations staff, our administration, and my fellow county commissioners in working behind the scenes to prepare the county, our infrastructure, and our facilities to make sure we're prepared for this storm. I know our staff's been working hard to prepare sandbags for residents and making sure that we open up all the facilities we can for drainage purposes. Really, the experts just talked, and that's Jonathan Lord and Sheriff Staley. Please follow their social media as long as you're able to get social media. Follow them for all the expert advice, and when social media goes down, tune to WNZF and our local radio station. They're an expert resource for us during these storms. And also just want to take an opportunity to thank our government partners. We wouldn't be able to pull everything together without the help from our government, local municipalities, and the school district to make sure that we keep our residents safe. So thank you for this opportunity to talk today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The next speaker is Chairman Scott Spradley of the Flagler Beach Commission.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Spradley, Flagler Beach City Commission. Thank you for those who are here and those who are listening and watching. I want to echo what has been said so far. This storm is not to be taken lightly. We monitor all of our sources of information. It seems to change from better to worse to better for worse. I urge everyone to expect the worst and hope for the best. For those of us on Flagler Beach, on the barrier island, we have a special situation in that we are exposed not only to the wind, but also to the ocean and also to the intercoastal. As we all know, there's a lot of low-lying, flood-prone areas in the city on the barrier island. So for those who have an inkling towards evacuating, you don't have to wait until the evacuation starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow. You can do it now. So I would urge you to take all measures to keep yourself safe. For those who stay, beware that roads flood and power lines sometimes are either under the water or slightly above it. So it's a good time to stay home. But I'd like for everyone to stay safe, be safe. I appreciate the city staff and Dale Martin, our city manager, for what he's done, and everyone else who are doing everything we can to keep you safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Our next speaker is Mayor David Alvin from the city of Palm Coast.
This is such an awesome group. It's difficult to come out and take us out today. So Let me just say this. Having been a veteran of storms and hurricanes in Florida since, I dare say, the 1950s, I have never felt more comfortable or confident than I do today, having listened to the literally hundreds of years of institutional knowledge and experience that the staffs of the county, the cities, the sheriff have all brought to bear on this storm. I think the message today is to take a moment, introduce yourself to your neighbor. This is that time when you can begin to feel that sense of community and be prepared to help one another. The expertise is here. We will do all we can, but take some of this responsibility onto yourself and make sure that you know who your neighbor is, who your community are, and who's living in the neighborhood. But with regard to the city of Palm Coast, please remember, Palm Coast Connect, Palm Coast Connect, Palm Coast Connect. I know if I say it 3 times, it won't turn into something other than a really good way to message the city for any problems that you may have. So please keep that in mind. And once again, this is that moment when we can all collaborate together as a community. Let's forget about the cities and the different departments and the organizations. We all work together to get through this storm together. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to wrap up before we take any questions, I also want to mention that we do have Superintendent LaShaka Moore here from Flagler Schools. We definitely owe them a significant amount of gratitude. They open up their facilities to our evacuees readily, and they bend over backwards to help us along with all of our wonderful municipalities and traditional response agencies and every other county and city government department. We truly do have an amazing team here. We work together as one big team. We don't worry about boundaries within our community. We all just do what we need to do to take care of the community. So I'm very proud to be a part of this team. And I really want our residents to rest assured that all of these great experts and players are working together to make sure we can take care of everybody. With that being said, would you like to have any questions? Yes.
Are the county's resources any less prepared for this storm because of the mobilization of local and out of state in response to Hurricane Helene?
Not in any way, shape, or form. As the sheriff mentioned, crews went out from his team, as well as from our local fire department, as well as from actually our own county emergency management team. But those personnel are back here. There are 1 or 2 that are still out helping other areas, but we've backfilled those personnel. But in general, those personnel are back here ready to serve our community.
In part for Flagler Schools, regarding the closure for Rimfire and the shelter, how long, first of all, will Rimfire be open as a shelter, and will it impact getting schools back in session once we go to session?
So schools, as I think we all already announced before this press conference, schools are closed Wednesday through Friday. That gives us actually plenty of buffer to, if the shelters have to be open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, before we can start, we call depopulating the shelters or finding alternate arrangements for folks that are impacted longer. That should give us plenty of time to be able to turn the school back over to the school district, and they can prepare for school soon after that, which would be most logically Monday, unless we have some kind of unforeseen impact in our community.
Jonathan, I was
Yes, sir.
surprised you didn't include the woodlands in your evacuation order, and you didn't talk about, or somebody, actually the city manager there from Palm Coast, who could reassure us about the water levels in the city and what is being done, to prevent some issues.
Sure. Mayor, you want to speak to the
city's
city's flood control?
Our city manager to come on up and speak proudly about the work that's been done.
So the individual coming up is City Manager Lauren Johnston, and she can speak as to the city's flood control measures. But in general, evacuation orders, our evacuation orders are primarily tied to storm surge. The woodlands for this type of storm are not risk of storm surge, but they are an area that does flood sometimes. But I know the city's been working diligently to manage their stormwater system.
Good afternoon, Lauren Johnston, Acting City Manager for Palm Coast. We are monitoring our stormwater system. We began lowering our canals at our weirs yesterday to accept more rainfall into the system. We are carefully considering the outfalls. There's more than just the woodlands. There's where we outfall on some of our conservation and wetland areas. So all of that is being modeled by our stormwater system. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Are we expecting the bridge to be closed at any particular points?
So at this point in time, a couple of years ago, we stopped doing this. We don't actually close the bridge anymore. It was also kind of a little bit of a misnomer when we said we closed the bridge in the past. The bridge will remain open unless there is damage to the bridge itself or a specific public safety issue such as flooding at the foot of the bridge or any other kind of issue. What we will do is we will announce via our social media channels as well as on our website when we know it's too dangerous to be on roads in general. And when it is too dangerous to be on the roads in general, that also includes our bridges.
Well, while the curfew is in effect, will there be law enforcement posted at the bridge, just making sure anyone going back over immediately after the storm is a resident, as has been done?
Sure.
I can't speak for the Flagler Beach Police Department, so I don't know what they're going to do, but I can tell you that we are not planning at this point to station deputies at checkpoints. What we will have is extra patrols out there for as long as we can, and then after that, we will use our real-time crime center and our cameras. And if we observe dangerous behavior and it's safe for us to respond, we will do that, is how we'll handle it.
What's the risk of tornadoes?
It's the same as literally with any hurricane because of the instability in the air and in the storm systems because of hurricanes. All hurricanes include an elevated risk of tornadoes. So we very much are expecting to see that. It would not surprise me in the next 12 hours that we go under a tornado watch, which just means conditions are right for tornadoes to form anytime within that window. When you do see a tornado warning, that means a tornado has already started to form. It may not have hit the ground. It may never hit the ground, but it means they do see rotation in that storm cell. So for our residents, please keep that in mind. A tornado warning is not like a, hey, it's coming soon. It means there is rotation in that storm cell. It doesn't always reach the ground. Hopefully they don't, but it does mean the Weather Service radar has seen that rotation.
So does the absence of Bunnell mean that the folks in Bunnell have nothing to worry about?
I would not say that at all. I know they are very busy. They don't have a government as large as some of the other communities, so I know they are very busy preparing their community for the storm.
How many
Yes,
folks on your high water rescue team, and how do you prioritize which neighborhoods and areas that you would respond to first?
Sure. Sheriff, could talk about your team, and then I can briefly mention the fire teams.
So we have multiple 4-person teams that will go out with our high water vehicles. Those are basically former military vehicles. They're very heavy and they sit high off the ground. We will prioritize, we will staff in the east and the west, and it will respond as needed based on calls that are needed, calls that come in, 911 calls. We will also base that on rescues that are needed for people that didn't evacuate and they have no way out. We know that the Mondex area of Daytona North of Flagler County on the west side is very prone to that. We know that the Andalusia Bay area and Crescent Lake and Dead Lake is very prone to flooding. On the east side, we know that along the intercoastal, A1A, Marineland, Beverly Beach, frankly, around the police department and Flagler Beach are prone to flooding because of the design of the roads. So those would be our priorities, where frankly, you probably can only get in there with high water vehicles at some point. I do want to mention one other thing while I have the podium, is that it's dangerous during the storm, but it's most dangerous after the storm. And so just because the weather maybe looks a little better, the rain has slowed down, it's not necessarily safe for you to leave your home at that point. There could be downed wires that might still be active. There could be debris. The list goes on and on. So I would encourage everyone to stay inside until you hear back from Flagler County Emergency Management or the Sheriff's Office or any of the other entities that say it is safe for you to exit, because that's usually when most deaths occur and most injuries occur is after the storm. And you can follow us on our social media platforms at the Flagler County Sheriff's Office or download our phone app and get almost real-time information. Thank you.
When you all compare this to an Ian or a Nicole, what does that mean exactly on
Sure. So in general, Ian and Nicole, for those that lived through Ian, Nicole, and even Irma, those are the three storms when I spoke to the Weather Service earlier today to try to get a frame of reference of what it may look like here.
Yeah.
They basically said if you saw flooding water, storm surge waters particularly, from any of those three storms, there's a very good chance you're going to see those same storm surge waters again too. And then even for the wind impacts. But again, wind impacts are kind of the best guess estimate based on the science they see at any one moment in time. It's very much high-end tropical storm force winds, maybe low-end hurricane winds. So they're really just giving those three as a frame of reference if you were in this community of what we may see in the community from that. And then just to add on to what the sheriff had mentioned about the high water vehicles, our county as well as municipal fire departments all also have high water rescue teams and personnel. And when we're safe for us, for the teams to go out, the sheriff's department, the fire rescue departments, they all coordinate together to make sure that we can kind of canvass as much as they can. We can't all be everywhere at once. That's obviously not impossible. That's not possible. But to make sure that we're hitting the most at-risk areas first with the resources we do have available here in the community. And then if we do need resources from outside of the community, we have a process through the Emergency Operations Center where we can request support through the State Emergency Operations Center as well. Though also realizing whatever impacts we do see could potentially be not great for our community, but it's not going to be anything near what the west coast of Florida is going to be seeing, potentially a record-setting storm in the west coast of Florida in the urbanized area around Tampa. So a lot of resources are going to head that way. But unfortunately, the state of Florida is very used to large storms, and the state as a whole, the 67 counties, the hundreds of municipalities, and our state government, unfortunately have gotten very good at dealing with these types of events. We can't stop them, but we can respond to them and make sure that we minimize injury and death and property damage where possible.
For those residents that are not evacuating, are measures like sandbags and shutters something that you would advise across the board if they're able, or are there other factors you have recommended?
So if you're not in the evacuation zone, in general, it's safe for you to stay at home. And we want you to go ahead and hunker down at home. Or hunker down with a neighbor or family member, that's fine, but we don't necessarily want you seeking public shelter. We want to save that for those that have to evacuate. Doesn't mean you're not welcome there, but we want to truly save those spaces for those that must evacuate. But if you're going to stay at home, everyone's home is a little different. Everyone's homes are built by different builders to different strengths and different building codes. It really is about knowing your home. There are homes built with windows that are just as strong as shutters, hurricane impact windows. Those homes don't have to do anything for hurricanes. Other people either invested in shutters or the home was built with shutters as part of the building code. The shutters were provided as a part of your home or you bought them for a reason. We definitely recommend, if this is a type of storm that you should be using them for, that you use them for this purpose. And then sandbags are good at blocking openings. They're not good at making a moat around your house. If you make a moat around your house, the sandbags they'll hold water, but they'll hold water within the moat and flood your house. So if you're blocking entrances like front doors and stuff like that, sandbags do have some efficacy there. But only if your home is prone to flooding in events like this. If your yard is flooded, if your street is flooded, that is okay. That's not something to be worried about. Please don't go out into it. Just stay at home. It might be interesting for some people to look at. Please do not go into that. Whether it's power lines, whether it's, we live in Florida. We have some interesting reptile-type creatures between poisonous snakes and alligators that love to venture out in these kinds of scenarios. Please stay in your homes. Do not go investigate the flooded driveways, the flooded yards, the flooded streets. Many of the communities here in Flagler County, the streets are part of the flood system. It is okay for the streets to flood. That is part of the structure. Same with the neighborhoods that we do have a lot of miles of neighborhoods that have swales in them. That is part of our system for the swales to flood and the streets to flood, and the water eventually matriculates or moves on. So that is normal. You do not have to call an emergency for that. It's an emergency if the water enters your home and is giving a threat to your life. But otherwise, if it stays outdoors, that part is not an emergency. You can look at it, but we really don't want you to go out into it.
What assurances do you have from FPL that we're not going to be last on their list of repairs like we were in Matthew and Irma?
So part of the benefit of us allowing FPL to stage vehicles here in our community, actually on our airport, FPL sets up a very large staging site, as well as across the street from our airport, across from by the hospital. They built a new facility, I want to say 5 years ago, don't hold me to that date, that they do stage and hunker down in. So while all of those crews aren't necessarily tied to Flagler County, they're going to go where the need is first. They're going to restore critical facilities first, like hospitals in our general area, medical facilities, emergency communication facilities. That is their priority. Once they take care of those priorities, then they're going to work through neighborhoods and start restoring power. I know they have spent millions, probably tens of millions of dollars throughout the state of Florida. Even in our own community, we've seen it where they've either doubled the number of wooden poles so they have additional wind strength, as well as put up a lot of more concrete poles. They've done a lot of work, they've done a lot of investments. I feel very comfortable that we will get support from FPL. It may not be as fast as people want, but again, they're going to prioritize certain types of facilities that we've worked with them to identify in the first place. When they go to get those facilities up and running, they will then start working their way through the residential neighborhoods. Yes, ma'am.
How much more added traffic volume are you already seeing on A1A and Route 1 and 95 from evacuees from even other areas of Florida? They're coming through Flagler County, and is that, are you all patrolling that, and is that a concern at all for local traffic?
It's not really a huge concern. I mean, our real monitoring of that is the same monitoring everybody can do. Honestly, Google Maps does an amazing job showing traffic volume, and when traffic's not moving, we don't have any secret wand that does anything different. I know the Sheriff's Department and the City of Palm Coast have some cameras on some streets, but in general, we have not had any additional traffic issues recently that other than what we've had before the storm. We have some traffic issues in some areas anyway all the time. I-95, the volume is busy. We don't necessarily know if that's tied to the storm or just tied to tourists heading home from the weekend. We don't necessarily have a way of telling that. After the storm, the state can actually study that by looking at cell phone data and seeing where it originated, but that's a retrospective look at what occurred. But we haven't seen any, we haven't really had any big accidents on 95 in the last couple of days. You got it, sir?
So to add to that, the Highway Patrol, Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, on 95, 75, and some of the east-west roads has authorized northbound traffic to use the inside emergency lane. So if there's 2 lanes, they make it into 3. If there's 3 lanes, it's now 4. That is not open to tractor trailers. It is not open to any vehicle pull in a trailer. It's strictly to try to move more traffic through those arteries to get out of the way of the hurricane. Just a reminder, if anybody uses those are secondary road. It's an emergency lane. They're not designed for the traffic that they're going to get. They have rumble strips. They're not as wide. So don't think that you can get on those emergency lanes and put the pedal to the metal, if you will, and think that you're going to pass everybody, because you're probably going to wreck and cause a massive crash and block everybody. But that has been authorized by DHSNB. I'd like to go back to the water rescue operation just for a minute. Besides high water vehicles, the Sheriff's Office has pre-staged our airboat and our shallow water boats. So they are protected for now for the storm, but we have them pre-staged in certain areas of the county, and a Marine unit will deploy them as needed.
How much rain has the county received already since Friday, Saturday? And are there any roads that have sustained damage or are underwater from those rains?
So since Saturday, we've had about 5.5 inches. It's not exactly even across the whole county, but about an average of 5.5 inches from Saturday up until about midday today. And then we're going to add that additional 10 to 15 inches between now and Friday. We do have 2 road closures that are in place right now. And actually, Karen, can you help me? One is Hargrove Grade by the railroad tracks. And the second one is Otis-Stone Hunter Road. They're both west of US 1.
Volusia County, when they were issuing their curfew, they carved out a few explicit exceptions, like people who are going to work, stuff like that. I was wondering, are there any explicit exceptions to the curfew that people should know about, or is it going to be enforced kind of on a common sense?
No, there will be a list of exceptions encoded into the curfew order that we will be signing that very soon after this. But there will be a list of exceptions on there, and that document will be available on our website as soon as it's signed, recorded with the clerk, and uploaded. Any other questions? Well, thank you all, and we appreciate you helping us get the word out to our community.